Alright guys, we're in a 2010 Chevy Suburban, and this is going to apply to many other Chevy vehicles as well. I've been seeing a lot of this, and it's when you start to play with your balance and fade. If we set that to rear, you see we have nothing.
Roosevelt, a crash is now blocking all 3 lanes of traffic, but we're being told by tollway crews that the right shoulder is getting by.
Now if we mess with the balance,
80's good, and no delays coming in out of Indiana.
Almost nothing, just from the tweeter on the pillar.
Sunshine, a few clouds, very mild the rest of the afternoon, a high of 57. Tonight, increasing clouds, a low of 37, then tomorrow.
So we have sound
not nearly as mild,
only coming out of one speaker. And I've seen a lot of, oh, it must be the radio, it must be the amp. But I would be willing to bet, more often than not, it's actually the speakers. And we're going to dive into that a little bit. Alright, we're looking at the rear passenger door, and there's little plastic panels to remove behind the handle, behind the pole, and then this little square here allows the lock to pop off. You just pry at them with a screwdriver gently, and then we have 10mm bolts to pull out. Okay, we got the bolts removed. They came right out. Your next step is going to be to start popping the clips. And what I did was use a screwdriver in there and pried, and the clips started to pop. This is the tricky part. It helps if you can look in there and get the screwdriver nearer the clip before you start prying. And I'm not necessarily recommending a screwdriver. There are better tools, but that's what I typically use. And once you get enough clips popped, you find this white foam, and it's attached to the panel in a couple spots. You can just peel that off like so, and it'll free up the door panel. Okay, we got the door panel totally free. Now we don't actually have to take it all the way off, so we're not going to. We can reach in here and just bend it out a little bit. There's plenty of room. There's a 7mm bolt on the top of the speaker. We'll take that out, and the speaker will just basically come right out, first the top edge and then the bottom. Okay, we got that bolt out, and now the speaker's a little bit stuck. Just pry it with the screwdriver a little bit, and out it comes. Okay, the rear speaker's out. You just unplug the wire. There's a plug with a little clip. And I know what you're thinking. How do we know the speaker's bad? Well, there's 2 things you can do. Take your multimeter, set it to ohms, and it conveniently tells us on the speaker it should be 8 ohms. Stick the probes on there. Oh well. That means open, infinity. That means there's a break most likely in the coil, and that's why we're not getting any sound. Now let me set up, I'll show you our next test.
And unfortunately,
okay, our second test, I've got a non-working speaker. I've just jammed the wires into the plug.
Although technically, I know he's not available right now, but
I got sound coming out now.
Because
that's telling us it's definitely not a radio issue. Definitely a speaker issue.
and more important.
We're inside now, and let's talk about how we're going to mount the new speakers. You can see I've gone with Polk DB651 speakers, and you can buy mounts for your speakers and they'll look pretty similar to this. Where did I get that? It's the old speaker. You can literally just take and peel the speaker and foam right off. And it leaves you with a mount. Your next step is cutting off the plastic bits and getting the magnet out. I cut right through it with a pair of tin snips. You could use a Dremel or other cutters. There's a ridge along the front side. I cut that right off with tin snips again. Then drill your holes, screw your speaker on. The next consideration, I'm all for cutting the factory harness, but you can also get adapters, or you can just chop this part off of the old speaker. This will plug right back into the factory harness, and solder up some new wires to it to connect to your new speaker. Okay, reinstalling the speakers I'm not going to cover because it's quite the opposite of taking them out. And doing the front door is pretty much exactly the same as the back door. The only real difference, if you're going to pull the door panel off all the way, you have to take off this triangle piece here. It's also held on with clips. Speaking of clips, you're probably going to want to order some spare clips because they will break. This panel doesn't want to stay on too good anymore because so many of the clips broke. So now it's kind of loose. I'm going to have to replace some of the clips. The other thing to talk about is polarity. You want all of the speakers to have the same polarity, and you also want them to have the correct polarity. Now there's a couple of video tests on or audio tests that you can find for testing the polarity. It'll play stuff in phase and out of phase. When it's in phase, it'll sound better. When it's out of phase, you'll get some audio cancellation, mostly on bass frequencies. You can also, I've downloaded an app, KRK Audio Tools. You can plug that in and basically it'll produce a sound, and you hold it by the speaker and it tells you what the phase is. And now that I've changed out all the speakers, I have them back and everything's working as it should.